This man gets about 5 minutes of free time at this time of the year in maybe a 10-week span after doing a brilliant job on the TNT on the NBA playoff games. Just tremendous. Then he would spend his time with us, though. His free time is amazing.
A week off all year.
And we welcome to the show the great Iron Eagle. As you know, Iron, there's been a rather large and dark pall cast above the show in spite of all the great things that are happening with our South Florida teams. But the passing of the Iron Sheik has had a tremendous impact on this program. I don't know if you feel the same thing.
Well, I knew you were going to lead with this.
Yeah. It's the most important thing. Never mind that Trump's under indictment. Yeah.
I swear, I knew you were going to lead with it. Into high school years, there was a kid in a couple of my classes named Richie Basili, Forest Hills High School.
Okay.
Ranger Pride is citywide. And Richie was even more into wrestling than I was. And he would write wrestling scripts during Spanish class. Senor. He would write scripts on. And I'm not talking about 4 lines on a page. I'm talking about pages on pages. Specific moves. He would come up with characters for each of the people that he was friendly with. And I became the Iron Sheik.
Oh my God.
Did you have to wear the pointy shoes? Because where do you get a pair of those?
I
go to Canal Street. It's some knockoff store.
There was a lot in there. A lot in there that was accepted in 1984 that may not have been accepted here in 2023. Anyway, Richie ends up becoming a highly accomplished television sports director in the NASCAR world. He worked at Fox, he's worked at ESPN, he's a great dude. Yes, I knew you were leading with the Iron Sheik, and I was fully prepared with 2 stories. R.I.P. Iron Sheik.
And a very pleasant good morning, everybody. Great to be with you here on the Defo Show. Jeff DeForest and one Mike Lubitz, as we said when we were putting together our Defo on 5 for 5 Reasons Sports Network. A very stoic-looking Mike Lubitz, almost Riley-esque in his perspective on what happened in last night's game. You know what I love about Iron Eagle, besides the fact that he'll go with just about any nonsense that we put in front of him here. Here's one of the most distinguished, and for my money, I'm a big fan of Iron Eagle over Mike Breen, who called his 100th NBA Finals game. And it's not just because we know Iron. I noticed this pattern with Mike Breen's calls, which they kind of emphasized as they were putting the feature together. Now, not to say that he's bad. I mean, obviously, there are a lot of people that don't like Kevin Harlan with the screaming. Breen would be a more, pleasant alternative. And he does let the other guys have their space while he's doing the play-by-play, and he's accurate and all of that, and he has good enthusiasm, nice pace, good vocabulary and everything, but he does build up to that crescendo on every basket, if you notice that. Even when it's 2-0, it's like, bang! Yeah, and he gives you that Emerald Lagasse call, and I don't know, I mean, you would like to see maybe him mix it up a little bit on that, because he sort of leaves it, as the shot is going up, and the anticipation that's going to be made, he does that very well, but it's always the same thing, same level. And so, after a while, it's a pattern that's so repetitive that you're thinking, come on, Mike. But Iron Eagle, you never see him falling into those kind of, I guess you would call them traps, right? I mean, if you go back, and that's why I don't like to review my own stuff. I rarely watch or listen to anything that I've ever done during 50 years of doing this. And when I do, sometimes I'm horrified. Lubie, I don't know about you. Once in a while, I say, you know what, that wasn't half bad. But for the most part, it's like, oh, my God, could you stop saying, That was one of the things that really used to bother me. And now in my old age, I find myself, as I'm scrambling to put words together, dropping in a lot of your nose there, Lubie. You know what I mean? You know what I'm talking about?
Yep, I'm aware.
Here's what we know.
We
know that sometimes it's painful to be right. Do we not realize that?
Yes.
The call was Denver in 5. In fact, if you go back, if you wanted to review tapes of the show, which I don't know that anybody would want to subject themselves to that, but I think accountability is big in this business. Now, when we're wrong, which is more often than not, we are very quick to go ahead and point that out, where a lot of guys just like to brush over that. You don't hear Stephen A. Smith coming on and going, I was dead wrong about that. No. Somehow in Trumpian type fashion, I guess this has become in vogue today. You take whatever set of ugly circumstances that you have, and What are you trying to punch in there, Lubie? Or is that just an accident?
No,
You take whatever set of circumstances and you twist them into something that shows you as being on the right side, the righteous side of things, right? I mean, of course, Trump should have taken these documents and he should have kept them in the bathroom and he should have shown them to people while he was out playing golf, even though it involved like our plans for nuclear attacks on Iran. Who cares, right? But somehow, while all you had to do, and this would be my first question, if I was the prosecution, why didn't you just give the boxes back, Donnie? Then we wouldn't be here.
exactly.
They said, I mean, they couldn't have been any nicer about it, right? Please, just give these boxes back. And the guy's telling his lawyer, hey, why don't you pick some of those papers out and see what you can get rid of there, Johnny, huh? The lawyer eventually just said, listen, Don, I mean, I'll go to the wall for you, but I'm not committing a crime here. I don't feel like being disbarred like half of your other attorneys end up in that kind of a jackpot and facing criminal charges and prison time myself, right? Witness Michael Cohen does all the man's dirty work, and the next thing you know, who turns on him? Old Donnie Boy.
Oh, yeah.
I just an aside here because I'm not a big fan of the pregame show on ESPN. Not that I'm not one of these people that despises Stephen A. Smith. I admire the fact that he was able to do something that a network thought was worth $12 million a year, plus whatever other money he makes on the side, right? So here's a guy probably copping $15 to $20 million a year for usually saying nothing that you would ever remember. Do you ever recall anything that Stephen A. Smith ever said in terms of his opinion about? I mean, and he had his moments too, where he looked to be ahead of the pack in terms of information, but you don't see that Stephen A. Smith much anymore. I mean, he was the guy that said that LeBron James was coming to unite with Chris Bosh and Dwayne Wade in Miami, and everybody else thought he was out of his mind, didn't they?
Yep.
When he first came out with that story. So that's good source information, good reporting. Going out on a limb when everybody says you're crazy and you stick to your guns, and it turned out that he was right. That was great. How many years ago was that now? Was that like 2012, 13?
No, 2009. Remember the LeBron came in the 2009, 2010 season.
Okay.
2009 summer. It was before then. He said it early in the offseason. And when
he had it way before anybody else, the theory. Nobody thought it was even, conceivable what he was talking about. They thought he was crazy. They really did.
For a while. It was like I didn't believe him.
He wasn't as bombastic or as omnipresent as he is now.
No.
I think that's part of it. Look, nobody could comment, with brilliance on virtually everything, can they? Do you know anybody in this business that no matter what the topic, no matter what the subject, no matter how much other people are digging for the same information, the guy is always right about everything. In this case, though, I don't have any great, to watch Mike Greenberg. He's all right? Professional announcer, would you say?
Yeah.
And he's been in the business a long time. He does what they want him to do. Does he have the greatest opinion? No. It's kind of like a thing that we used to have with you until you started to wise up a little bit, where whatever Lubie said, you were going the other way.
Oh, Greenberg. Oh, no, he's
Greenberg, yeah.
No, he's horrendous.
You don't like him? I mean, I would consider him, look, he's standing up there on national television. He does what they ask him to do. Does he add anything particular to your sports enjoyment? Probably not. I mean, he looks good. He delivers his material well. I mean, he's well spoken. Maybe I shouldn't say this. Neither should you. Talks a little bit fast. He's cramming a lot into a short period of time. Jalen Rose has lost me. I used to like Jalen Rose. I don't know what is he doing?
Now, I haven't watched any of what I give you credit. I haven't watched any of what they do. The entire play, like the Heat stuff, the TNT, I watched until the Heat were there because
TNT is just almost always entertaining or about to be. Yeah.
I stopped watching when the Heat were there because they were so negative on the Heat that I just couldn't take it. And Barkley was being so confusing that I stopped watching them. But before that, I could at least stomach them.
And at least they ride each other a little bit.
Yeah, I can't watch the ABC crew. Look, Mike Greenberg is good schmaltzy host. He knows how to be the schmaltzy host.
Yeah, he's okay at that. I mean, you can't fault him. He does it all right.
Opinions on sports. Oof. Yeah, it was like me at the beginning. Well, I was 27, just learning how to do this. The dude in his 50s has been doing it 30-something years. And he sounds like a kid that's in like high school talking to his friends about like when he's on there giving any kind of an opinion, he sounds so stupid. Like I just can't listen to him. It's like, dude, what are you talking about? Like,
yeah, I don't know that anybody's really watching for Greenberg's opinion.
No.
Michael Wilbon, respectable, but not enough to
So
get me to tune into the show, and not enough to overcome, the fact that I don't necessarily, want to hear Stephen A. Smith or watch him perform. And I could see what the attraction is. A lot of people love this guy. Obviously, they must, right? I mean, they do studies all the time on these sort of things when you're at that network level of ESPN. So somehow the so-called Q rating or whatever, his level of appeal must be extremely high. Who is he appealing to? Not sure. And I guess I'm out of that phase. I never really was someone that liked to yell and scream about sports. I never thought that was anything that would be significant enough to get me yelling and screaming, right? I mean, maybe in the political scene years from now, if Trump returns as president and runs the country from prison, there might be reason to start yelling and screaming about some of this stuff as opposed to just shrugging it off as a joke. I was going to say though, I saw instead of watching a pregame show, I watched a little town hall meeting with Chris Christie, who is it just because he's fat and was in the Dallas Cowboys box there with Jerry Jones that people don't like Chris Christie? He was a big Trump supporter. He actually was coaching Trump during the debates in 2016. And then all of a sudden, he turned on him.
Yeah, well, I mean, they all turn on him now. But, I mean, outside of DeSantis, outside of the people that are for him because DeSantis is worse, so they're like, oh, shit. I guess we have to.
No. The guy made some sense last night. I mean, look, I don't, share his all of his Republican conservative beliefs, but among the people that I've seen, he at least did not come off as a lunatic, and B, he had some answers to things, and he wasn't afraid to address some of these questions. He didn't just shrug them out. He didn't do like a Marco Rubio and everything. So, I texted the lovely and talented Leslie Visser just before the show, because we had both watched this Chris Christie thing last night. That I would hope that he at least would be the one that emerged as a Republican nominee, because he's not nuts. Now, does it mean that he changes the minute he gets in office? I don't know. He did govern a Democratic state there for 8 years. He got reelected by a pretty wide margin. This wasn't something where all the the red-nosed crackers and rednecks just voted for DeSantis, because his opponent was Charlie Crist, was nondescript, but reasonable there. It was actually it was halfway refreshing, Lubie, I'd have to say, for all of the ragging that we've done on the GOP and the ridiculous stances. And he comes right out and says Trump's an asshole, basically. That he's a self-indulgent, self-aggrandizing, just a stone prick who could care less about you. And, he said it a little bit more diplomatically, but not much more last night. All right, we'll get into this Heat game. We're going to get out of our comfort zone here for a little while, but it's such an honor to talk to this man about a sport that I don't know. You can have your Seamus McShamus and all of these guys with funky accents. You could have the two men in suits. You could have a lot of different people outside of Ray Hudson. This would be our most distinguished guest when it comes to the subject, and in this case, the sport of football, or as it's more commonly known here in the States, soccer. The dulcet tones, and probably the best voice, that we've had on the show in terms of just pure voice quality, Phil Schoen. Should he not be reading like novellas? If he spoke Spanish, he could be doing audio novellas with that voice, no? And women would be literally orgasming right there as they heard the man's voice. It's that good. Does a brilliant job on the soccer broadcast that I've seen him on. He's with beIN Sports, which I have to admit, Lubie, I rarely tune into, but it would be worth it just to hear Phil Schoen and Ray Hudson doing a soccer game. It's great. So he's going to join us on this whole Messi thing, and maybe it's a little out of sync timing-wise with you like to prioritize, don't you, Louie? The most important stories of the day, like we did with Iron Eagle, right? You had NBA Finals going on. You had NHL Finals going on. And what do we lead with Eagle? The Sheik, the passing of the Sheik.
100%.
And he realized that what we were doing went a lot deeper than just, the typical sports talk show where, okay, anybody could flip open a microphone and go, what happened last night? Oh, wow, the Heat got knocked out of the postseason and Denver won its first championship. Easy to lead with. But the significance of the Sheik also was something that was indelibly impressed upon the mind of one Iron Eagle, who was well prepared, right? I love when he tells that Bob Backlund story about the match with Backlund.
I just love when he's yelling at the older dude, and the older dude actually feels bad.
And he says, don't worry, kid. Backlund comes back and wins this one. I saw the match last night in Connecticut.
And Backlund loses.
And he loses this time.
The guy's like, oh, I don't know.
They flipped the script. I like that his friend was writing detailed wrestling scripts while in high school, and then went on to a brilliant career in sports media as a director for Fox and many other entities. That was an interesting part of the story as well. All right, the great Phil Schoen going to join us here in just a moment. We'll try and dive into a little bit the significance of the Messi signing with the Inter Miami, what is it? CF, Club de Football.
Yeah.
Why did they do that? Why couldn't they just call themselves the Miami Schmanks or whatever? No? Lubie, Inter Miami CF.
Yes.
That had to confuse everybody. Does Phil do their games on TV? I'm not sure.
I don't know.
I know he's calling soccer all the time, and I remember seeing Phil. Now I know I've known Phil for a long time, and we brought this story up so many times to him. It's probably not really something that we should be conducive to doing again, right? Which is the thing about him being 5950, which was his nickname when we were working together way back in the day at WQAM when they first flipped to sports. I wasn't there at the very beginning. I was still at WIOD. But then I joined Joe Rose and Steve Goldie Goldstein on what became a very popular show, even though it wasn't my favorite show to be on. I have to admit that now. Maybe it was me at the time or just the way the chemistry worked between the three of us, the uncertainty of the business always, the fact that the general manager who was paying us a nice amount of money, way higher than the standard that there was at the time here in local radio. He really did a lot to escalate salaries of local guys, a guy named Greg Reed. But he never seemed satisfied, no matter what we did. He was one of those guys. And, we were, thinking he's just trying to conceal the fact that he's having an affair with the traffic girl. That's why he was so standoffish about everything that we did. But no matter what, even when the ratings were high, I mean, he was always, throwing like a giant. This ratings book looked like a phone book back in the day, Lubie. And he would fire it across the table. We had like a daily meeting, if you can imagine me putting up with that.
You having to do a daily meeting.
Daily meeting after the show. And it was usually a negative, tone to it also, like we had blown the show. Meanwhile, it's as popular as ever.
It's just a morning show. People take that stuff way too serious.
Way too seriously.
Change anything. Nothing ever gets better after
Nothing. The format's the same. The concepts are the same.
Just let us do our thing, and whenever you're sick of us, get rid of us. Just leave it. Like that's my mentality.
We had two producers, Donnie Brennan and Josh Friedman, and the Grim Reaper, Robert Grieper. Three guys in the production end. And, they were constantly being fingered out as, oh, man, you guys are slacking up. Meanwhile, we'd have a show where we had like Mark Cuban on. Jimmy Johnson would call in just impromptu. Shula would call in to say, what are you putting him on for? I mean, it was great. People absolutely loved it. And we were definitely plugged into what was going on. And look, Joe's still doing it. And Goldie went on to tremendous prominence. And I'm sitting here with Lubie, 12 years. But Phil would come in at the last second, zero preparation. He would be asleep in his car, and at 59:50, with a sportscast that was about to go on at 6 o'clock, we'd all be looking around going, anybody seen Shane? Shane, where's Phil Schoen? And sure enough, he would walk in, no script, nothing, and deliver a perfect, they were giving you like 2-3 minutes to do the sportscast back then, right on the money with every word that he said. Smooth as silk. So, one of the greats of all time, a natural broadcaster. And when I first saw him surface as a big-time soccer announcer, I thought, man, that guy's good. So he's going to join us here in just a few seconds. We'll come back with the great Phil Schoen in a moment. Now that.
The time.
59:50. He'd be the first to remember that. It's 7:22. Ponies in Style at Champions, the outstanding simulcasting room at beautiful Hialeah Park. Yes, the grand old lady of thoroughbred racing has never been more vibrant, and you can wager on the races from the top tracks around the country while enjoying a cocktail at the Brass Rail Bar or any of the fine food served throughout the facility. If poker is your game, you're covered in style, and you can play all your favorite Vegas-style games, including blackjack, craps, and roulette, in Hialeah Park's sizzling hot casino. Get a player's card when you walk through the door for all kinds of generous amenities, including our favorite, free play, when you come out to the ultimate casino and entertainment destination, Hialeah Park.
These days, we're all looking for comfort anywhere we can find it. Thank goodness for Landlubbers Raw Bar and Grill in Plantation, because they are making sure you are as comfortable as possible. First of all, they're not only open for delivery and pickup All you have to do is go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both pickup and free delivery. You're going to have the best wings in the world. You're going to have a great burger. You're going to have their amazing soups. Again, Landlubbers, Raw Bar and Grill. It's nice and easy. Just go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both your pickup and free delivery. Thank goodness for Landlubbers for making you always feel right at home.
Are you looking to buy your first home? Have you been turned down for a loan? Do you need to refinance or get money out of your home? Call Michael Kodsey, CEO of Choice Mortgage. He's been helping the South Florida community get mortgages for 30 years.
Hi, this is Michael Kodsey, CEO of Choice Mortgage. We have the most competitive fixed rates in the market. Call me 24/7, 561-441-2730. And remember, I don't just work banking hours. Make the right choice for your home. Call Choice Mortgage today.
World, I mean, if my point was ever going to be embellished and going to be proven true, the world has gotten me sugar nut.
Grab a bagel and a schmear, plus some Defo and Lubie. Welcome back to the Defo Show.
Welcome back to the show, the Defo Show here on this Tuesday. Jeff DeForest, Mike Lubie Lubitz, and a pleasure to introduce this gentleman. And as I said, it's not exactly our wheelhouse, trying to figure out what the significance of Messi coming to the MLS is. Well, we've seen this kind of move before. I don't know. Even with Beckham, maybe, I guess there have been others that have come since that were significant European stars, and they've come to the MLS while they still had some shelf life. As we were saying, this isn't George Best coming to the Fort Lauderdale Strikers just to have a couple of cocktails with Ray and the boys. Messi signing with Inter Miami CF. And we're thinking, who would be best equipped to discuss this with us? Ray Hudson, obviously, would be a go-to guy, but he does a show on Sirius during this time. And then Lubie reaches out, as they say, not one of my favorite phrases, and scores an interview with the great Phil Schoen, who joins us right now. Phil with BN Sports, Sirius XM, and also does Inter Miami CF games on the radio. And as we said, Phil, I don't know if you caught the introduction as we were going out of the last segment and segueing into your appearance here. 5950, it's still the most impressive thing of all the stuff. You know, I've seen a lot of stuff, a lot of shit in my broadcasting career. I mean, I've been involved in a zillion different types of projects and shows, but I have never seen anything more impressive than your ability to awaken from behind the steering wheel of your car after getting about a 20-minute nap in the parking lot, come into the radio station at 5:59:50, no script, no information, and deliver a perfect 3-minute sportscast every time. Brilliant, Phil Schoen. It was no question in my mind. There was no doubt you would become great at anything you did, and you got into the soccer world, and it's terrific. Good to have you on the show. How are you, my friend?
Well, glad to. I don't know if Lubie told you, but he kind of sends me a note. It's texting, and he goes, "I just want to make sure you're still with us." And I'm thinking, like, what? Are you in it? Are you in it for fun? I know your audience.
Rumors of your death, yes, greatly exaggerated.
Are you having seances now? I mean, it's Don Shula in the next segment.
Yeah.
But anyway, I appreciate the introduction, and I am glad to be here.
Well, and you know that would have been one of my things, and Lubie and I have been toying with this idea for a while that we should do a segment actually called "From the Grave," since we're often talking about dead guys here on the show, not realizing that they had checked out, including Wayne Newton, who we had in his coffin for many, many years, and then he shows up at the hockey game the other night, and we thought, wow, I didn't know that guy was still alive. But good to know you're with us, Phil Schoen.
We think it's Wayne Newton. I mean, he's moved from Vegas to Roswell, so we're still not quite sure.
Yeah, it could have been, Siegfried, for all I knew. I mean, with all the plastic surgery. All right, let's get right to it here. I mean, you're doing the games on the radio for Inter Miami CF. They're floundering at the bottom. I mean, if they're in a European league, they might even think about dropping them down a notch. Not having a real good season. There's all kinds of questions about how the organization is being run and whether, that they're ever going to do the right thing. They have this big new facility in the works, but meanwhile, they're playing at, what was Lockhart Stadium there. Seem to have a decent following. They fired their coach. Was there any, I mean, how much of a turnaround is this? All of a sudden, they've got Messi, and they're the centerpiece of the soccer world.
Well, first of all, it's important to say, it's not a done deal yet.
Oh, okay.
Although the biggest hurdle, which is Messi wanting to come here, which is arguably 90+% of the equation, is done. He's come out and publicly and said, and while
I'm sure if things had worked out differently, sticking around in Paris for another year, if it would not have involved many of the players that grew up with Messi at the helm in Barcelona, it would have involved many of them perhaps getting either cut or pay cuts. And if they could have found a way to sneak it in, I'm sure he wouldn't have minded to go back to Barcelona for a farewell year. But there's a couple of elements here. Number one, those two things aren't possible. So it really came down to accepting, and again, in this era right now with the PGA kind of conveniently forgetting everything they said bad about Live Golf over the last few years, Messi turned down at least $1 billion
Wow.
to elect to come here. They were offering him somewhere between, say, $300 and $400 million a season for at least 2 years and perhaps even a third. And then all of a sudden you're getting to a 38-year-old, 39-year-old Messi, who's probably thinking about maybe one farewell swing back through Newell's Old Boys or something like that in Argentina. But he instead elects to take up the Mosses and David Beckham on their offer, which is still being finalized and still needs a signature on it. The league would probably need to approve some of this, but the preliminary steps to approve it have all been taken. I mean, Don Garber, the commissioner of Major League Soccer, is coming out and tweeting about Messi's arrival. So I think the league feels pretty good, but I have a feeling that Inter Miami, until the signature is on paper, is going to take this somewhat cautiously. But it is, and maybe we can get into the particulars, because you've been around, Defo. You don't like to admit it. You've been around since before Pelé.
Yes.
This is one of the biggest moves forget the history of American soccer, one of the biggest moves in the history of sports.
Wow. You know what? I remember Pele coming to New York, and usually what we saw in the NASL, where, when they got that level of superstar, they were, at the tail end of their career. I don't know if they were Michael Jordan with the Wizards, but, there usually wasn't a whole lot of shelf life left. I'm thinking of George Best, and I don't, was he ever sober for one of those games with the Strikers? That would be.
Yeah, I don't think it was Ray that he really wanted to hang around and drink with, but yeah, now this, if you actually take a look back, one of the most amazing goals that I've ever seen was scored by George Best when he came over with the San Jose Earthquakes against the Strikers, where he basically, the Strikers had scored and he thought there was a foul, and he's arguing with the ref all the way as they're putting the ball back in the center circle. And he pretty much says, it's like the escape to victory scene with Pelé. He pretty much tells the team to give him the ball, and he proceeds to dribble through the entire Strikers defense. Ray said he got past him early, and Ray was smart enough to stay near midfield, so he was out of the camera for the highlights. Thomas Rongan, who I do the Inter Miami games with, admits he was foolish enough to actually try and tackle Best twice. So he was one of the highlights. And basically Best dribbled through 8 or 9 guys and slotted it into the corner seconds after the argument. So even if he was not at his best, he was. Now, from a Messi perspective, you could argue David Beckham, when he came over, was still near the peak of his career, but on the downside. Pelé was on the downside, not necessarily just through him, but Santos wouldn't let him go. So he'd finally hung up the cleats on Santos and the Brazilian national team. And somehow, through some miracle, Clive Toye was able to convince him to come over and join the Cosmos. Lionel Messi, just a few months ago, won the World Cup with Argentina and was awarded the Golden Ball as the best player on earth. So we're not that far removed, even where he is right now. And he'll still be in consideration, I think, for this year, although there's a few other competitors. But we're talking about a player who is still one of the best players on the planet. And that's why Bruce Arena, who was asked, those Boston sports writers, was asked about what was going on and how he felt about it and how the league was bowing over backwards and how could Messi and Miami find a way to make this deal work. And Arena, who's never been one to suffer fools, now the boss of the New England Revolution, former U.S. national team coach, basically says, hey, wait, the day that he goes to Atlanta, there's going to be 80,000 people in the stands. How is that bad for soccer? So even the teams that are going to be facing Messi and Miami, knowing it's going to be a lot more difficult, because it probably won't just be Messi, it's going to be a lot more difficult, are seeing the big picture. Just like when David Beckham came in and they came in with a designated player and all of a sudden you had a different level of talent available. I'm not saying that this is going to be a sure thing, but just when it looked like Saudi Arabia opening the wallet was going to draw every single superstar that could see the end of the line, the fact that Lionel Messi turned them down and came to Major League Soccer is going to make a few people think. And Neymar, who is still one of the best and still only 30 years old, Luis Suarez, who is also one of Messi's old teammates at Barcelona, still scoring goals down at Grêmio in Brazil. Angel Di Maria, who was with Juventus last year, just let his contract lapse. There's a whole bunch of friends of Messi, and I guarantee you others as well, who are now looking at Major League Soccer thinking, and a lot of them, by the way, are looking at Miami. I'm not sure how they're going to be able to get it done, but it could be fun to watch.
Well, and that's the thing here is, and Defo's joked that people were telling him to get into soccer when he was like in college. It was the next big thing. And here we have seen it grow leaps and bounds in the last 20 years. The last 10 years, it probably has overtaken hockey, maybe even baseball in importance on American soil. We know where it stands worldwide. And the MLS, look, it's definitely, there's a lot of cities where it gets a lot of love. Seattle, Atlanta, Columbus, it does really well. Okay. But it's still nationally, it still is sort of at a creeping pace. Is this the thing that takes it to that next level where not only you get Messi, but you get Messi who's still, if it's not his prime, he's still one of the top 3 to 5 players in the world. And supposedly that's the rumor, is that other guys are coming. Is that what you believe? That Messi coming finally kicks down the door where you don't get Valderrama at the end. You don't get Pele at the end. You don't get Beckham near the end. You get these guys that still have life left that can really make MLS something interesting worldwide.
Great question, and I think it's part of the equation. I think it's very important, and this is the one reason when Valderrama came in, the Donadonis of the world, and you're looking even here with maybe some of the newer players that have come in to kind of take over. You need,
Zlatan,
yeah, Nani, whatever, but you need those guys to draw the attention. But you also need 2 other things underneath it. You need the journeyman, the guy that's gonna fill the roster out and basically give you a substantial quality. And you need a pipeline of young internationals and, even more importantly, young Americans and Canadians. And we are starting to look, and this was kind of an after effect, a side shoot of the Beckham experiment, where they went out and they got young international designated players, someone like a Leo Campana, who's on Inter Miami and showing a lot of promise. These are guys that are under 22, under 23. But you also need to have academies, and each and every MLS team has academies, and some of them have started to find a way to develop players that can help them on the first team and conceivably be sold for millions and millions of dollars. Dallas has been good. The Red Bulls have been good. There are 6 Miami Academy players who have been playing. 4 were in the starting lineup in the last game. And even though they stumbled against Arena and the Revs, I don't think you can blame the kids. I think it's more some of the veterans who are now looking over their shoulders trying to figure out if they're going to be some of those that will be ousted to make room for Messi and company. So I think you do need something for the people that show up once to convince them to come back twice. Now, there are a lot of interesting things. When Pelé came in, the NASL was, I don't say on the verge of collapse, but it had been stagnating and things were not looking good. He comes in, and within a couple of years, they added 24 teams.
Oh, wow.
Now, that was overkill at that particular point. Beckham comes in, and we weren't that far removed from Miami and Tampa being ousted and going back from 12 to 10. But now take a look. It's rivaling the NBA, the NHL, Major League Baseball, and talking to further expansion. San Diego just paid $500 million to join the party, and Apple paid $1 billion to broadcast it. Now they're also coordinating with Messi on his upcoming documentary. Adidas is a big Messi sponsor, and they also sponsor the league. You're looking at PepsiCo, who are one of Messi's longtime sponsors. So there are people out there who are vested into the sport that can now be perhaps convinced to shed some of that money here stateside. So I think what we are looking at is a much firmer foundation with a pipeline of players coming from Argentina and Brazil and Colombia and the like. and even more importantly, academies that are producing quality players that not just can fit on an MLS team, but can go overseas and play in Europe as well after a little bit of seasoning. So we have a foundation. Now we have a new spotlight, arguably the biggest in the world. Messi and Cristiano Ronaldo are still icons. And just to give you an idea, I think it was within about 2 days, Inter Miami's Instagram account jumped to like nearly 5 million
It was one day.
subscribers.
It went from 450,000 to 6 million in 24 hours.
I thought they had put up nude photos of Lubie. I couldn't see that kind of sizable increase, for any other reason. Yeah.
It's now at 8 million in less than a week.
Yeah.
It's at 8 million.
And again, I mean, pretty soon you're talking real subscriptions. But no, we're talking about a guy who, just like Muhammad Ali, just like Pelé to a point, anything happens. And this was the one point also with Beckham. I remember actually being on the plane with Frank Yallop, who was the coach with the LA Galaxy at the time. We were in the air as the David Beckham announcement goes, and we get notified. And we're just looking at him. He's sitting in the back of the plane. And that's also the interesting point here with Inter Miami. Who's going to be the manager? But Yallop is going, okay, this is an amazing opportunity, but imagine the chaos that's going to be following this team from now on, because every single newspaper on the planet that has a sports section was mentioning Beckham to the LA Galaxy. And it's even more intense now with Messi going to Inter Miami. That's why some of the talk is, and I know it's Javier Morales at the moment, who is a promising managerial prospect. He was a very good playmaker in MLS. He's part of that Argentine pipeline, looked to be a good youth coach on the way up, but been handed the reins. But there's talk that another Argentine, in Gerardo Martino, who is a former Mexican national team boss, former Newell's boss in Argentina, which is where Messi grew up, Barcelona boss. Messi kind of played there. He was also in Atlanta, where Joseph Martinez was one of the best strikers, and now with Miami and struggling a bit. There's talk that someone with a little bit more cachet could come in, and I do think they need to find the right guy who Messi would respect, but in the process would not lose the respect of everyone else on the roster. So that is a big decision. We talked about Luis Suarez coming out and saying, hey, Neymar and Messi had been talking about finding some place to go off into the sunset together. And that's one aspect. I don't think people realize this. And this is one reason I know you guys and I had talked for years that if Miami ever got it right, it had the chance to be something special. I think only New York, even more than LA, more than Chicago, more than any other city in America, maybe only New York could rival Miami as a target destination, because everyone knows it. It's a pipeline to Europe. It's a pipeline to South America. There is so much potential here. The Miami Fusion had that and squandered it until it was too late to actually do anything about it. Inter Miami had that and was in the process of squandering it a bit, but they always had a dream. And now they have the thumbs up on their stadium, although it'll be interesting to find out if, at least in the interim, some of these games go to Hard Rock, because there's going to be a lot of people that want to see Lionel Messi. So now they have to make it worth it. It's an opportunity. It's not an answer.
Excellent stuff. Phil Schoen, our special guest here. You can catch Phil on Sirius XM, BN Sports. And anytime there's any kind of a soccer question that arises, naturally, Phil is our go-to guy. All right, a few things strike me here. And, your, answer and qualifications on these things certainly would be helpful in trying to figure out what this is all about. The money from Saudi Arabia, I mean, just a staggering amount, as you mentioned. So you're thinking, there can't be lost on Messi the fact that Beckham now owns a team, or is a part owner of this team, and has risen to this high level of an executive position in the league, which may now prosper largely due to Messi's ability to play in it and maybe attract more players of his type. I mean, is in the end, was this maybe not the best monetary deal for him? Or did Messi just have, either a moral stance or such a desire to live in Miami, which he stated that he was able to forsake, a staggering amount of money?
I don't think he's going to go broke. He could probably play for free and still not go broke, and his kids won't either. But there's a couple of aspects here. I do think that it will be a little different than the Beckham deal. I think while the league is going to rearrange things, I'm sure, and other clubs can perhaps take advantage of this as well, as they have following the changes with Beckham. But it won't be the franchise included. Remember, I think he had the option for $25 million purchase. And he didn't have to come up with it all himself, but he held the golden ticket. And within a year, I think the franchise fee was over $100 million. So already he's got some equity at stake. Now it's $500 million and climbing.
Wow.
So he got that share that he could then leverage, and the Mosses, thank goodness, came in along with several others here in South Florida to finally get this job done. That's not going to be the case with Messi, but from what we understand, that Inter Miami itself would offer some shares in this team, maybe even a significant, you never know. I doubt a majority stake, but I don't think that's something Messi would want. It's more just a chance to put a stake in the ground. The other thing, as anyone who has ever been married can understand, he's also at the stage of his career.
You're in the right ballpark there, Phil. I mean, our level of comprehension on this one should be beautiful.
Anyone who's ever been married at this stage of the career, I mean, this is like with kids on the horizon or already there. If the wife is going, let's see, Saudi Arabia, where we pretty much have to live in a compound for life and under a microscope in more ways than one, or Miami. And I don't know if you guys remember, but after they won the World Cup and Argentina and all the players went home, including Messi, he tried to go out on a nice little quiet date in Buenos Aires. And it worked well for about 5 minutes until people saw that Messi was there. And it looked like a riot. It was basically a giant party and a celebration. But there were thousands of people in the streets outside. It was packed like New Year's Eve on at Times Square, and many of them just burst into the restaurant. I mean, they wanted to thank Messi. They wanted to share the joy and the celebration. But that's not really a romantic night out. You know, honey, let's you, me, and 15,000 of our closest friends go out to dinner. So in Miami, he will still be recognized. He will still be swamped to a point. But I think there's an American mentality for the most part in situations like that to maybe come over to shake hands or wave or wink or who knows what, but leave them their personal life for the most part. And at the same point, hey, he's going to have a place on Star Island or Watson Island or something like that where you're going to need a boat to get past the piranhas. So he will have plenty of freedom to raise his kids, to have a family. And as he said, I mean, Barcelona twisted this a little bit, and I don't like the way that they did for a guy that had done so much for them. They said he took the easier route. And really what Messi had said is he wanted to have a chance at a normal life for him and his kids and his wife. So I think Antonella did not make the decision, but I'm sure he asked her. And I think in conjunction, they realized there's still a good sporting experiment. There's still a good investment in time and effort and in life, and that they can benefit from here in the States, here in Miami with Major League Soccer. And again, the word of caution is, and I know Inter Miami is being very restrictive on how they approach this, that nothing is signed yet. And I think until it is, they probably don't believe that it's going to happen. But wish them the best. It looks very, very good, and I think it's going to be great. Remember the whole made-up hullabaloo when LeBron James had the choice?
Yes.
This was that times a million.
We still hate Jim Gray for that show, by the way, Phil. I hope you don't have to do one of those ever in your lifetime.
That Geraldo wasn't the host. But anyway.
Tom Rinaldi would have been perfect also, and we love Tom. But all right, a couple of quick things, if you don't mind, and thank you so much for your time, Phil. And it's always great having you on anything that we're doing. Level of play. I always used to get a kick out of this. I still do to some extent. In baseball, guy gets sent down to the minors, like let's say Aaron Judge, when he comes back from his injured toe. They want to get him a couple of swings before he comes back to the major league level, and he's going against some single A pitcher, for a team named the Jumbo Shrimp, and you're curious to see how he does, and you're thinking, wow, by level of play that he's accustomed to, how does this guy not go 4 for 5 with 3 home runs? And then you find out that he was 0 for 3, with a couple of strikeouts, and you're thinking, oh geez, this is horrifying. Level of play compared to what Messi's accustomed to in the MLS would be what? I mean, is this the equivalent of dropping like Verlander down for a rehab assignment to pitch in the Florida Coast League? Or is it that different in terms of the disparity of talent?
To a point, but I think with a grain of salt or perhaps a slightly wider view. We're talking about Lionel Messi, who plays for Argentina, which is, well, I could say beyond arguably the best team on the planet right now, at least one of the top 2 or 3. We're talking about a Lionel Messi who is playing for Barcelona, who was not only one of the top teams on earth, but in one of the top leagues. You have pretty much, I think most would agree, you have the Premier League in England as arguably the best league, and mainly because they've taken a lot of players from Spain and the like. You have La Liga in Spain, which is probably the second best, and then you kind of have an argument over Germany or Italy, and then France. So you're talking about top 5 leagues in the world. And France, even though it might be 5th on that list, is pretty much Europe's shopping market. There are so many talented players on the way up in France, but they tend to sell them before they hit their peak and cash in. So you're talking about a Lionel Messi who is used to playing the best of the best and coming out on top for the most part. However, Major League Soccer is not the backwaters that many would think. And I think there are some very good teams, LAFC among them right now, who are one of the best teams in North America. I think there's probably a good 5 or 6 teams that could be competitive in La Liga and maybe the lower reaches of the Premier League. I wouldn't say that MLS is a top 5 league. It's not. But it's easily a top 20 league on the earth and maybe even a top 10 league. And as even more than Messi's going to draw attention. Messi's going to draw eyeballs. Messi's going to open the door for some of these critiques, which if you play it right can help you improve as opposed to just bruise your ego in regards to the way they do things. For example, one of the sidelights when Beckham came in was better hotels for the players, better training grounds for the players, better field conditions for the players, better travel with first class or charter flights. A lot more of that than it used to be sitting in the back next to Joel waiting for the peanuts to come down from the waitress. It was a huge improvement off the field that people realize, and it's going to be in spades now with Lionel Messi coming in. So the eyeballs are going to be there, but the pipeline from South America, the pipeline from the local communities needs to continue, and I think this is going to take it up a notch. I mean, like I said, there were 6 academy players in the roster in the last game, 4 in the starting lineup. Can you imagine these kids that are like 18, 19, and even some? There's going to be a 12-year-old out there somewhere who's on the way up. He's going to get a chance to watch Messi and in scrimmages go up against Messi and the like. He's going to learn something. He's going to see that dream approach. Back in the day when I was calling MLS, I mean, people were talking about a Kobe Jones poster on the wall or a Landon Donovan poster on the wall. Now it's Lionel Messi, and he's going to be playing here in these kids' hometown. They have someone to shoot for that's just as big, if not bigger, than LeBron, Marino, and the like. I think this is going to stage, and some people would not put this past that by the time Messi is done, that Major League Soccer could be a top 3 league in the world. That might be a little high, but I could see it closing in the top 5 just because the money's there, the investment's there, the talent pipeline is there. They have to prove it, though. For example, I mentioned LAFC. Seattle, who was a pretty average team last year, but found a way to peak and ended up winning against Mexican opposition, the CONCACAF Champions League last year. LAFC is a much better team. Made it to the final and then basically let loose in their pants. They ended up losing to a decent club called León in Mexico. But they need to, when they get to those situations, when they get to that stadium, when they get to that stage, be able to turn it up a notch. And as Jurgen Klinsmann used to call it, be nasty. Basically expect the calls to go your way and be upset when they don't. Don't act like you're there just for the gift bag. Act like you're there for the trophy. And I think it's that mentality that American soccer players miss out, because rest of the world, if you don't make the team, and the team doesn't do well with you in there, you're gone. They'll get someone else. And next thing you know, I mean, you're cleaning buses. It stinks in some ways, but it is life or death for many of these players. Here, guys retire and all of a sudden they're like a CPA or an executive vice president of something. It's a huge benefit in the big picture, but I think we need to see a little bit more hunger, and I think Messi's going to lift that bar perhaps better than almost anyone else that was available. So it's, an opportunity for Miami. It's an opportunity for MLS. Let's see what they do with it.
Joe Robbie's got to be beating his chest in that big stadium in the sky saying, see, I was right. Soccer was going to be big. And it was Sam Lefrak, by the way, at the Seawain Country Club. I was a waiter who, and usually, I found that these, very wealthy people had little interest in what I was going to do with the rest of my life. And he asked me what I wanted to do, and I reluctantly answered I'd like to go into broadcasting and sports broadcasting. And he actually said to me, you ought to start figuring out, what soccer is all about. That's going to be huge. This was in the 1970s, early 70s. You had, had the right idea, Phil Schoen. You loved this sport from the beginning, and your eloquence in speaking about it certainly, is resonating with all of our listeners and fans out there. A final thing, and this is just a point of information, very self-indulgent on my part, and brilliant stuff on the Messi thing. Does Tijuana ever win a game in the Mexican League? I've been tempted to bet them at huge odds. Do they have like more than one win on the season? Are you familiar with the Tijuana team in the Mexican League? Because every time I see a crawl on TV, they're losing.
The Xolos, the Mexican hairless dogs. I have not seen them this year. Was it Xolo Esquintile or whatever? But there's actually been a lot of Americans that have played there. There have been times where they've done well. I think they even won a championship sometime in the last decade. But in Mexico, I think the one thing that's starting to happen is that Chivas is waking up, that America is waking up, that Cruz Azul is waking up, Pumas is waking up. These are all traditional powers, like the NHL's Big Six type things. And they've been lost in the shuffle behind some of the bigger clubs in Monterrey and Pachuca. But now those clubs are waking up, and some of the teams maybe in the hinterlands are paying the price of it. I do know there is a thriving soccer culture there, and it has been successful at times. They do play on artificial turf, which I don't particularly like, but they do well enough that they're, at least until LAFC, I haven't heard if this has changed a little bit. But even when the LA Galaxy were there and doing well, there were a lot of people, say, from San Diego and Southern California who would go down on game day and watch the Xolos play and then just pop back up until the next home game. So they do have quite a following. They had been quite a team. I don't know about now, but you know what? If you're degenerate enough to be betting on them, they probably are going to lose.
Well, they have been. The only comforting thing is I know that I can go down there anytime and get a leather jacket at like half the price that it would normally be. So, although the quality is not, guaranteed, yeah. I used to go down there, to catch the races at Agua Caliente. I mean, that was maybe the sickest of my degenerate habits at the time I was living in California. Phil, always a pleasure, my friend. Where can the people catch you? Because you're, in our opinion, every bit as entertaining and brilliant as the two guys in suits and anybody else that talks about this sport, as evidenced by your appearance here on the show today. So, where can our fans follow you as this Messi story develops? And obviously, there's far more interest in soccer than I would have anticipated when we used to rib you about it the entire time that you were at WQAM.
Well, since you mentioned the call letters, I do still do some of the games on beIN Sports, and it had been with Messi and Neymar and Kylian Mbappe, who now also has kind of thrown his hat in the transfer ring by saying he wasn't going to renew. So PSG is going to be up for a huge rebuild, but on beIN Sports, and that's also available even over the air down here in South Florida, beIN Sports Extra. You're also looking at Sirius XMFC, where I fill in at times. Ray still has the luxury of going in almost every day. I'm here and there when they need me, kind of the spot starter. Long relief, perhaps, but with three toddlers in the house, I like my sleep, which is very elusive. And then also most of the Inter Miami radio games on the 560 family, I'm doing those alongside Thomas Rongen. So getting a chance to to listen in. And the one thing that I really like, Men in Blazers. I'm sure you'd love their sense.
Yeah, they're great. We had them.
Yeah,
we had them on.
Roger. I love what Roger Bennett said, and he was just talking about this about 10 years ago. So I'll just change the date a little bit. Let's say soccer, the sport of the future, as it has been for the last 30 years, may have actually crossed the Rubicon, and we might be ready to see the future come now. So I appreciate the opportunity. Any chance to talk about soccer is a good day. Any chance to when someone says, "Are you still with us?"
Well, that's an important question. Lubie asks me that every day. Don't feel badly about that. But it's more relevant in my case. Phil, great talking to you. Always great catching up. I what was it that far back? That couldn't have been the last time we spoke. Was when we predicted that Brazil would be scored upon by an own goal. In the opening game of the World Cup. And you kind of sneered at that, and it turned out every now and then, right, the blind squirrel, we caught one on that at a big price. Thanks, Phil. Always a pleasure, my friend. Take care of those kids.
Love you guys. Have a great day.
Love you.
All
Phil.
right, thanks a lot, Phil Schoen.
Yeah, we had him on.
Holy shit, man.
That
That guy's
World
great.
Cups. That was 2 World Cups ago. We had him on the last World Cup.
Okay,
Whenever there's anything soccer, which for us is every 4 years.
And even at that, it's a reluctant embracing of the sport. Are we going to have to get with it, Lubie? I mean, what's the story on that? We're going to have to just join the legions out there who've been preaching this. I mean, literally, it was Sam Lefrak. This might not be a significant name to you. Do you know? Are you familiar with Lefrak City?
Yeah, from you. You've mentioned it.
I believe Kenny the Jet Smith, was originally from raised in Lefrak City, where it was kind of like, I don't know, it was an upscale projects of sorts. Lefrak City, they used to, anybody that ever drove the Long Island Expressway to get into New York, very familiar. I mean, you'd blow by Lefrak City. It was kind of a landmark, like, okay, I'm almost there. Can you believe how these poor schmucks are living? So I meet the man himself, Sam Lefrak, and this is, it had to be the summer of 72, Libby. Because I remember taking a job for a week at a country club as a waiter because I had run out of cash betting horses at Yonkers. And I wasn't working at Shea Stadium anymore. So I didn't have this easy, replenishing cash flow that I had in previous summers. And I said, okay, let me just take the first job I can get. I had, been a waiter before. And I get this job where I'm having to do French service, Libby, with a bunch of, I mean, you talk about, what would it be? I mean, this ritzy crowd that they have there. This was a very exclusive Long Island country club in that area. I mean, it wasn't like it was the Hamptons, but it was darn close. I mean, this Lefrak had plenty of cash. And I do remember the first time I was doing French service, Mike Mayo could appreciate this, where you have to do the, like you have a spoon and a fork and you have to have it in one hand. And, you have a bowl by the table and now you're dishing that out over the people. I did drop a big part of a Caesar salad in the lap of some woman who was wearing a very elegant and looked like a fancy designer white dress. And I had to pretend like it didn't happen. Like, oh, no, you couldn't have felt anything there. That wasn't a crouton. What are you talking about, lady? But, and the dressing was not particularly, conducive to mixing with fashion. Where you've got a big glop of Caesar salad dressing on your dress as you hit the dance floor there for a little Hava Nagila or whatever they were playing. But Lefrak literally tells me I should study soccer, and I thought, you are fucking flat out of your mind, Sam. How did you make all of that money? And I don't know. I wouldn't have been very good at it, Lubie. Did you hear the pronunciations and the passion with which Phil Schoen? Do you not have to love the sport that you're calling if you're going to do it at the top level? Can you really? I guess anybody. You know what surprised me one day when we had Barry Tompkins, who I worked some boxing matches on, and he was saying that he's not even a big boxing fan. I didn't know that. I mean, I was sitting around with him like he's talking boxing with Arthur McCanny there, as if he'd been following the game since birth, and that surprised me because he does a good job calling the matches. But Phil, I mean, his passion for soccer was there from the very beginning. And if you don't have it, Lubie, I mean, could you go out and call a soccer game if you had to?
I guess I could. I play this sport enough but the problem is I played only at youth, so I don't know all the terms. So
I only played because they tortured us in gym class. I've told you that.
I played growing up. I actually did play for
soccer was punishment when we were, growing up.
I played like 4 to 5 years in league. But I don't know the terms, so that's the only problem. I'd have to study up on that stuff. But yeah, I mean, I've watched the World Cup, every World Cup since I'm 19. So like,
really, I mean, in great detail. I mean, I'll admit to catching some of that.
I love the World Cup. I watched from beginning to end. Usually it's in the middle of the summer when there's nothing. So
yeah.
I've really gotten this last year was a little tougher, but because it was mostly weekdays, I would still be able to watch a lot. Yeah,
I watch in stunned disbelief that this could be the most popular game in the world. Not that I want to get into all of the negative soccer material, but look, I mean, it really was. We told that to the guys in Blazers. We said, what would you say to someone that believed that soccer was the invention and the creation of a mutant society that had no hands? And they had to think about it for a second, which still, I mean, is it not a reasonable question, Lubie, to ask to any soccer expert? I don't think Phil would have appreciated it coming up for the 1,000th time during one of our interviews. But I do watch. I mean, I'm watching the World Cup, and people are singing, and they're all stoned out of their minds, and they're ready to riot. And there's 100,000 people all wearing clown makeup and hats and funny costumes, and you're asking yourself, what is it that's going on out there that's so fascinating? And for my money, for the most part, I mean, the answer is nothing. And yet, and then people would give you, well, what are you talking about the hockey playoffs for? Huh? It's the same shit. I don't believe so. I mean, the pace of a hockey game is I mean, the Heat game last night was kind of a frantic pace, even though nobody could make any shots. But nonetheless, I mean, you could see did you see like they had a shot of Max Strus at one point? And I don't even think he logged that many minutes in the game. And this guy was gassed from running up and down the court. And you're thinking, these guys are in most tremendous aerobic shape. Maybe aside from, I mean, what would it take? Is hockey more of an aerobic stress sport than basketball at the NBA level? What do you think, Lubie, just from a physical standpoint? I mean, I know you're getting pounded in hockey, but and guys can only go out there for like 90 seconds at a time, right? They start talking about a 2-minute shift and say, "Oh my God, they've been out there for 2 minutes."
But because skating is so intense, let alone skating and doing stuff, hockey's right there. But soccer's crazy because the field, I think, is like double the size of like the field's big as hell.
The field's too big. Number one,
and the sport is about constantly running. Like that's the entire
meaningless constant running.
Even when they stop for very short periods of time. Like even basketball, there's whistles, there's commercials. They don't take commercials for the whole half. So like,
no, but somehow they add an extra 13 minutes, to the half.
So, but that's what I'm saying. Like that is that's cardiovascular wise, that's a lot. Like I would say soccer.
Oh, sure. I mean, it takes some wind to play that game. I mean, but it's the aimless running. It's the aimless wandering. It's kind of like you don't remember this movie probably. I mean, I've referenced it a zillion times because it had some classic moments in it, and still would be a very interesting flick, especially if you hadn't seen it. Midnight Express. Remember that about the guy in the Turkish prison, right? He gets caught at the airport there with a bunch of hashish, very Brittany Griner-esque. And then gets locked away for like 30 years in this torture chamber of a prison where they're beating the shit out of you all the time. And you're always getting into conflicts. And, and at one point he's walking around the wheel there like a zombie. And then he realizes, hey, I don't want to do this. I'm going to get out of here. So he starts walking the other way and the people all start going crazy. I refuse to conform here on this for some reason, Lubie. It's not just that it lends itself to comedy material, the game. But when I'm watching it, I guess the game transpires quickly enough. But I don't think you can compare the pace of soccer to hockey and say that, it's going to give you a sport that demands riveting attention at all times, right? Because rarely does anything of any significance happen. Would you say that's fair in watching soccer?
Look, they're similar to me in the sense that
the guy runs up and down, and then the ball is stolen, and they kick it back the other way. It's like you're going Meshuggah.
Scoring usually happens out of nowhere, and it's a surprise to the announcer. That's both sports. Like hockey guys would be like, no, oh my God. And soccer's like, oh my God, goal. It's very rare. Like once in a while, you'll see a great pass in a 2-on-1 in both.
But the goal is the size of the Grand Canyon. How come there isn't more scoring there? You could think you could kick one from midfield and put it by most goaltenders who also are. I mean, are they not the easiest guys in the world to fake out, soccer goalies? That literally works, right? Where you go, your mama. Like on the penalty kicks, they don't even approach the ball yet. The guy just goes, your underwear. And the guy dives to the left. They hear a sound, anything. Like a firecracker goes off, and the guy goes diving to the left, or the right, one way or the other. And usually, I would imagine these people with all of it. Do they do sabermetrics in soccer, knowing that, okay, you know what? Felipe always goes to his left.
Oh, yeah. On penalty kicks, they definitely use analytics, but I don't know about the game itself. Look, they remind me of each other.
Here we are condemning the sport after we just had this glowing thing with Phil Schoen.
You and Brian can condemn it all you want. It is what it is.
You love it? I mean, you're in love with it?
I don't love it. I won't condemn it. I don't watch
I'm not condemning it. If you like it, it's fine. I really believe that. You can't be judgmental about this stuff, It's kind of like these arguments we have with Mike Mayo about food. It's like, hey, you know what? If you like that, that's great. What do you want me to say? I don't.
I don't just watch to watch. I watch the big events, but I understand it worldwide. They love it. I think I will never understand the offside rule. That's the funny thing. Offside in hockey comes up.
Should be cherry picking allowed. I think
it doesn't seem to get in the way. Like I don't hate offsides in hockey. I barely even realize what the fuck offsides is in hockey. Soccer, I don't get it. Soccer, it's literally the only time you finally get a run up offsides. It's like, dude,
there you go.
Point, like to get
a handball too. The inadvertent handball resulting in a penalty kick. Please, I mean that's ridiculous. I mean because you have to go. I mean consequence to infraction. A guy arbitrarily kicks a ball and you happen to it hits off your hand, and then they're going to put the ball in front of the goalie and literally give him a blindfold and a last drag on a cigarette where, you don't have to do anything and you could score. You could roll the ball in with your nose half of the time. No?
Those are the three things I have issue with. The offside, I feel like they could be more liberal about it.
It's funny really, are we excited about Messi or what, Lubie?
Soccer fans hate that Americans try to change their game. They can have their stupid game.
Yeah.
But there's nothing wrong with we tweak our games all the time. So why can't they tweak their game? The offside rules, I'd love them to be more liberal about it, just like we are with some of our penalties.
Make the field half the size and make the goal even bigger. I mean, just make it the whole length of the baseline. No?
I don't know about all that.
And higher also. I mean, they should extend the height of the goal by 6 feet.
Yeah, there you go. I would liberalize the offside rule. The ending the game in a shootout, like we talked about.
Like Sepp Blatter here. I love it. Go ahead.
The shootout, ending the game in a shootout is stupid. We both have agreed about that. That's the dumbest thing ever. Like the shootout's nothing like
penalty kicks. How do you feel about penalty kicks?
And then that's the other thing is that's why the NBA is flopping. If you notice the infusion of Europeans who grew up with soccer.
Oh yeah, and the flopping should be NBA. Penalized by amputation.
You can lose on that. but that's the thing is you'll be if you get into the zone, the goalie area, and you just fall. Sometimes no one's even around you. They give you a penalty that could win you a game. Like that, you should not lose on a guy just inadvertently falling. Like that's fucking stupid. And I would love for them to change that too. Those are the three things that annoy the crap out of me about soccer.
All right. Well, am I just stupid or getting too old to where I have kind of a bitter viewpoint of things, but how difficult would it be to let us know how much extra time is actually being posted on the board? Why would that be kept a secret, Mr. Trump?
Well, it's seriously if you actually keep track of how much time they take when this person lays down for 40 minutes, and then after a goal, there's always a 5
in agony, and then he runs off.
Oh no, yeah. But I'll track it. I'm like, yeah, they miss about 20 minutes, and then they'll go 3 minutes.
It's funny though. You hear talking to Ray Hudson or Phil Schoen or somebody that really is into the sport and has some knowledge about it and some passion for it. I mean, you start thinking, yeah, maybe there is something to it. No, I've had a difficult time accepting that ever since Sam Lefrak said that to me. Was it that I just didn't like? I don't know. I don't think he was a bad guy. Was he Donald Sterling, Sam Lefrak?
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know.
With ghetto properties. Dr. Jerry Buss made a lot of money, I think, on some cheapo apartments in Los Angeles too. No, and he's a beloved and well-liked character. Yes. Sterling despised. Although he's on tape, and that's the thing about this whole political scenario right now. When you're on tape saying, "Hey, can I just get another 11,000 votes? It ain't going to be so good for you, Joe." We have pictures. It's like, Mr. President, I'm sorry. I really can't do anything about that right now. What? I'm innocent. What?
Well, that's what we're having.
Was he at the Gotti 3 fight there against Mayweather? Donnie? No, he didn't get to town till yesterday.
No.
How big is that going to be today? I mean, it's
My
demanding an
mom
awful
wanted
lot
me
of
to
attention.
warn- My buddy lives in the Brickell area. My mom, who watches news incessantly, wanted me to
Yeah.
warn him. And I'm like, Mom, he'll be okay. I'm like, I don't think he's worried about
I
it.
don't know that anything particularly heinous is going to happen here because they're going to march this guy in there, and they can make arrangements to get the rest of it done, whatever the official booking procedure would be for Donald Trump, which I would imagine would be fairly quick, right? And they rush him right out the door. When I was involved in this thing, they had a press conference after, not for me, I mean, but about me, and I'm like, wait a minute, man. You would think, I mean, this guy Lewis just busted, one of the most heinous criminals in the world here. We're making a cable television show, for Christ's sake. Not even a particularly popular one. On Native American affairs. And you guys are going to, go ahead and make a federal case. And see, I had a legitimate beef there. I should run for president, no? I think I was persecuted by the government far more than one Donald J. Trump. But we'll see what kind of circus there is today in Miami. I mean, does it exacerbate the situation? Not for us locally so much, but I mean in general, that it's here in Miami, that it's more inclined to circus because of the location. I mean, if this is taking place in Cleveland, we get the same circus.
Oh, it's gonna be a shit show. It's Miami.
Okay.
Miami, it's always a shit show.
Fan man maybe crashing in there. I mean, what bizarre thing will happen outside of something that we obviously would never condone, which is people just going crazy and getting in each other's face in a violent way. But what bizarre thing could happen here? What do you think?
I have no idea. I'm not gonna lie.
DeSantis shows up and starts screaming, "You did it, Donnie! You did it!"
When it comes to Miami, you never.
This could be quite the scene here today. 3:00. That's post time for the Donald Trump, hearing, and I guess it's an arraignment, right? Of sorts, is it not? Is that the official qualification for this particular hearing? I believe it's an arraignment hearing for Donnie Trump taking place today. All right, we have a lot to talk about. We deviated into a little soccer there, and I still don't know that. I mean, I enjoyed watching Messi. When a guy is the greatest in the world at anything, I don't care what it is, right? I enjoy watching Joey Chestnut eat.
I was gonna say, we watch a dude eat hot dogs.
Yeah, but he's the best in the world at it.
Exactly.
I mean,
Exactly.
And my buddy Eddie Kaplan always used to say, if you're the best in the world at anything, whatever it is, I mean, it's an achievement. It's a distinction, is it not?
I mean, you used to watch the Rock, the Atlas Stones crap, and you always mock it, but you only mock it because you have at some point watched it. Like,
yes,
all watched crazy ass shit because, wow, that guy's great at that crazy ass thing. Like, that woman.
Women's transgender, strongman competitions. That would be coming up next. Certainly, that would be banned in the state of Florida. The Atlas Stones was great. I mean, these guys, how the hell how many steroids did you have to ingest to take like a boulder and balance it on your pinky, spinning it like it was a basketball there, and then lift it up and put it on some platform. And then the rocks got increasingly bigger to the point where it was an absolutely incomprehensible amount of weight that these guys were lifting. And they got the trembling thing going like they were some Japanese gymnast on the still rings. Incredible.
I've watched a lot of
World's Strongest Men. That's the name of the show. Yeah. Well, I mean, why wouldn't you watch that? That thing's great when they're throwing, pulling trucks with their teeth.
Yep.
It's good stuff, man.
So yes, if you're the best in the world, we'll find a way to watch you because billiards. I've watched pool,
pickleball. I guess will be next.
I haven't done pickleball yet, but at some point, I guess I'll do pickleball.
Although I saw a picture of our friend who used to be a top college tennis player, the lovely Kim Ruddy, and she had a picture of herself playing pickleball, and I actually just sent her a comment. No, not you. Another one wrapped up in this shit.
People of all ages, teenagers, like people have gotten into this sport, and I still haven't watched a full match, but I've watched like a point, and I'm like, what are they doing? What is it? Oh, that's pickleball. I'm like, that's not the thing.
Are we going to have to turn our attention in another direction after tonight? Also, I mean, heat season over, but we'll get into it a little bit. I know Lubie is dying to dissect this game for you people. and complain about Jimmy Butler not being Jimmy Butler.
Yeah, it's not a complaint. It's a sadness. Like, I'm not mad at him for clearly being hurt by injury, beset by injuries. It's just what could have been. Like, I wanted to see the Heat hero there. Like, what could the Heat have? Because everyone counted them.
A little bit better performance out of Jimmy Butler in the early portion of that game last night, and they win it.
That's my thing. Like, everyone, you said it. Oh, well, it was one quarter. Yeah, it was because they don't have their best player. Like, I'm curious if Bam's allowed to be the second. Bam had to be the one for most of the series. Like, if Bam's allowed to be the number 2/3, what could have been? And it is what it is. The Nuggets, as considered, the better team.
Big differential. I mean, Jokic was sort of,
superstar.
A very tepid presence in the game in the first half. And then when they needed him, he delivered every time down the floor, 12 of 16. A variety of shots that you're looking at going, I mean, how is that going in? And yet Bam Adebayo at that point of the game was, as you said, a non-factor.
Non-existent. He had literally 2 points and 3 rebounds over the course of an entire half after having 18 and 9 in the first half.
As good of a defender as Bam Adebayo is, I mean, don't you need like some hulking big
He's
lug,
a 4.
like a Brooke Lopez to be on this guy?
Yes, he's a 4. He's miscast as a 5. Look, this roster is not. What's funny is now they've gone the other. Remember, Spo was the best coach ever.
Yeah.
And Spo.
Malone did a good job in this series.
No, Malone's a great coach. But again, going into this, it was Spo. Look, he's out. All these guys are getting fired.
Oh, did demonstrate his brilliance. I mean, how is this team even in that position? We're going to run for a minute here. We'll come back and we'll get Lubie's obituary and epitaph on the Miami Heat's playoff run, which ended last night to the tune of 94-89. I found myself on the edge of my seat, though, Lubie. I really did. I was a very entertaining game, very tense. I was a little nervous during the ball game for a rare time watching a game. Usually I'm just too stoned to care, but I actually felt like a little anxiety as this thing was going on. All right, we're coming back with more in a moment. Now that. And our thanks to Phil Schoen for joining us. That guy's brilliant on soccer, is he not?
Yeah.
I asked him about Tijuana. I was only joking, right? And he goes off for 5 minutes about the league and everything. And did you hear the pronunciations, the Spanish? Holy Jimmy Lennon Jr., man. This guy must have been taking a Berlitz course over these years because he had that down. And then, when it called for some kind of European accentuation, there was Shane right on the money on that. He was great. All right, it's 8:20.
Folks, Tony Segreto here. Let me ask you a question. What do you look for when you go out to eat? Good food, obviously, friendly atmosphere, not too loud, but good energy, reasonable prices, and a place where you feel comfortable. All those ingredients, no pun meant there, are hard to find unless you're talking about the Texas Roadhouse. You see, they encompass all of those attributes. Really, really good food, amazing atmosphere, good for a family, good for a date, or just a night out for yourself, and prices that will make you extremely happy. Their ribs unmatched. Steaks hand-cut every day. Everything, and I mean everything, is made on site, including their incredible bread. It's the one day, folks, that you can forget about low-carb diets. Trust me when I tell you, Texas Roadhouse, your restaurant, your destination when you say, where should we go and eat tonight?
From the newly renovated sports bar to the beautiful bayside views captured at the Tiki Bar, Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill has it all. Located at mile marker 104, the Big Chill also offers waterfront dining while experiencing breathtaking sunset views of the Florida Keys. It's simply the hottest spot in the Keys to cool off. That's Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill at mile marker 104 in Key Largo. For more information, call today at 305-453-9066.
Recently we realized it's not just hurricane season that can hurt us. Any time of year, things can happen to your home or business. And the insurance company can be your friend, but they also can be your enemy. Horizon Public Adjusters, Justina Testa, are here for you to help this process go so much easier. Before you call the insurance company, call Horizon Public Adjusters and Justina Testa at 954-809-8752. Would you?
The world's heavyweight champion. I don't have to say a lot more about the way I feel about Ric Flair. No respect, no honor. There is no honor among thieves. He put hard times on Dusty Rhodes and his family. That is.
The only way to get your morning started is with Defo, joined by Lubie, right here on the Defo Show.
Speaking of old acquaintances and friends and people I worked with at various radio stations. Mad Dog Jim Manich. Every time I hear that clip, I'm always reminded of Manich's story about Shula's first impression of him, where he showed up in like a hippie Volkswagen van with peace signs and flowers all over it. His hair was very lengthy by football standards at the time, and he looked a bit disheveled there, showing up in like tattered pants. And he comes out of the van in the parking lot there, and Shula says to his assistant, who later related this to Jim Mad Dog Manich, "That's the captain of the Michigan football team." And I always think about that when you play that clip from Dusty Rhodes, because that was the American dream. Everybody aspired to be like Dusty Rhodes. Think about that, Lubie. Although I would have trusted Dusty Rhodes running the country more than I did 45 there, who today will be paraded into court. This will be a wild week. I mean, when you think about it, eliminated in the NBA playoffs. You have your theories on that. I mean, most people probably, and very soberingly so, which is it's good to see once in a while. And we call this in like the second series. I remember saying this to you, Libby, that are we overlooking the obvious with all of this analysis about the NBA postseason? Because it appeared to me as they were, handling Kevin Durant and Devin Booker, who were on fire, regardless of the rest of the supporting cast with the Phoenix Suns. They were no match in that series for the Denver Nuggets. And I thought nobody's going to beat this team in Denver. It just looked like they were so dominant there in the postseason, as they, for the most part, were in the regular season. And as we said, those stats can be askew because you see a team is like 35-7 in the regular season, which Denver was. And you're thinking, all right, a couple of those losses probably came, and this is always where a home team is most vulnerable, when they come off the road off like a 10-day trip. And Denver traveling to the East Coast comes back, and they throw in a stinker, right? It happens. So, I mean, you're talking about a team that was overwhelmingly dominant at home. The Heat were nothing like that on their home wood. Certainly not in the postseason. They actually were more vulnerable there, much like the Celtics. That was a weird thing about the East, seeing the number of times that Eastern teams lost on their home court, including Game 7 for the Boston Celtics.
He were undefeated at home until the Celtics series, and then they lost 2 at home, which was a freaking joke. And then they lost 2 at home here.
Yeah. Well, and those were, I mean, their flattest efforts of the 5 games.
Yes. Yeah.
The 2 games at home. And once again, I mean, this is interesting because and I thought correctly so, we're saying, what the hell is that defense? I would rather see Red Sea on 2. But as it turned out, I mean, they really shut down the Miami Heat from a scoring standpoint. The Heat were not a team that was getting 89 points in a ball game. They were getting 89 points in 3 quarters during the regular season, even though they were a lousy 3-point shooting team during the regular season. They were not one of the higher scoring teams, but to hold them consistently under 100 like they did, what was that, just lousy Heat play? Or, could that be at all attributable to the Denver defense? What do you think?
I don't want to be sort of loser guy, but if you watch the Heat, they missed a lot of wide open, easy. Bam literally was horrendous around the rim.
At the basket yesterday, they were very poor.
Maybe it's Jokic is a big dude.
It wasn't Jokic, yeah. Him
just standing there. But you're open, you're open. Like, I don't give a shit if a big guy is in your periphery.
Yeah.
Butler missed like 4 or 5 bunnies. Bam, in that second half, when the game was getting tight, but the Heat still had a lead, and it could have extended the lead, Bam 4 times missed. And this is what he needs to work on. People worried about the 3-point shot. Make this consistently. When the bigs don't want to leave the rim.
Yes.
The perimeter guys can't defend you. This zone between the free throw and the basket, that little area is wide open to him every time. And he sucks there. He sucks. Like, you have to be able to make that. The Heat win that game if he makes 4 fucking shots. Like, and they were gimmies. They were like 5 feet, and he was wide open, and he's not even close. Not even close. And then he doesn't get back on D. Their transition defense in this series was an abomination. Like, just missing a basket shouldn't mean the other team gets a layup. Like, that's fucking weird. And that's the thing. They were shorthanded in those regards, where the Nuggets had the talent to get out and run. The Heat did not run well at all in this series. Their fast break points were non-existent. And I don't know if that's Jokic, again, being just a big clod, or they just were off. But around the back, the Nuggets said, all right, fuck it. We're not going to give you the open 3 anymore. We're going to give you layups, which should be a win. But he couldn't make layups. Like, their 2 best players were horrendous inside of 6 feet.
and just an inordinate number and unexpected. You're watching these shots miss and saying, "How is that possible?"
What was that? It's
Yeah.
like Butler inside the free throw line had wide open floaters, which he's made a career of, and he hit the front of the rim. I'm like, dude, how are you
I
gonna
mean, people kept speculating what level of injury he was being impeded by, and that would either be a reflection of overwhelming fatigue.
Yeah, he was tired.
And perhaps, you know what? I mean, those early efforts in the postseason where he was, so overwhelmingly good, maybe had taken its toll, and then combine that possibly with the gimpy ankle. And as you say, Lubie, you're like Hubie Brown, alluding to lift all the time. It did seem like women weaken legs. And that usually causes you to come up short on those kind of shots or overcompensate and throw them right over the basket. I was laughing because I think one of my favorite bricks of the season came from Kyle Lowry, who actually nailed a bunch of three-pointers at key junctures in the game, but overall didn't shoot the ball all that well. He was 4 of 9 on threes, and those were his only 4 baskets out of 13 shots. So the rest of it was atrocious. But that line-drive brick, I believe, was in the fourth quarter. Did you see that? That just absolutely, I mean, it bonked off the backboard and came off on the other side. And it wasn't like it was that difficult, of a circumstance that he was shooting out of. I mean, there might have been a slight bit of pressure on him, but not much. It was token pressure at best. And he just bricked that. And that was when this game was sort of teetering in the balance there I think it was even after the gift 3 points that the Heat got on the Jimmy Butler non-foul. How do officials, look at that and say, oh, no, that was the right call?
No, it was bullshit.
How could they possibly? I mean, seriously, what is the point of having instant replay? We say this a lot. But, I mean, if you're going to just blatantly look at something that is dead wrong by any measure of the rule, if they had a couple of those rules guys chime in, which I don't know if they even had them on the
they didn't.
On the team there, but, they would have, been screaming. Just like the announcers were. I'll give Jeff Van Gundy credit. He's not afraid to call it. And he said that's atrocious.
Yeah, it was bad. I mean, in real time, I was like, oh. That's
surprised Adam Silver didn't walk out at that point. No? I mean, did they want to extend it? Did they owe some sponsor a game 6? You started to think that. Okay, Silver's here. I will say this, by comparison. Now, the Stanley Cup is one of the premium trophies that it has so much culture to it, the Stanley Cup. That, even though it's like a weird looking thing, it's one of the great trophies in all the sport. Would you agree with that? The Stanley Cup.
It's like a holy, it feels like a holy grail.
Yeah.
Like it just feels.
The Larry O'Brien, you know what it is. It's a basketball trophy, correct?
Like bullshit.
Well, no, it's not bad. I was just thinking of the World Cup trophy and then the Golden Boot trophy that Messi had. And you're thinking, couldn't they make a deal with some trophy shop? And get like something that was representative of the supposed greatness and significance of winning this particular championship? The World Cup trophy is a piece of shit. You wouldn't use it as a doorstop, Lubie, really. I mean, it's not like, Bjorn Borg, having like the Wimbledon trophy. And he's willing to put it up for sale for whatever reason at that time. Well, do you imagine? And did he need the money? Did they ever get to the bottom of that?
I never heard of why he was doing all that.
I didn't like the clutter. I mean, what do you think?
A gambler. I know he didn't make hundreds of millions, but I think he did fine.
Borg, are you kidding me? I mean, Borg opens his mouth for a second. Anybody would want him. Can you imagine in Sweden if this guy? Do they do endorsements in Sweden, or did they just? It's too aggressive of a profession for that country. I don't know, but I mean, imagine Bjorn Borg. I mean, he's got to be worth zillions of dollars as a backer of anything. He always represents class, right? He's exuding class, this guy. But and we all remember him on his knees that first time when he won Wimbledon, and he holds the trophy up, and you're thinking that was in a hawk shop somewhere outside of where did they unload that thing in Monte Carlo? I don't know. There's a lot of good stuff probably in a Monte Carlo pawn shop, though. Although you probably have to be filthy rich to get there.
It's probably expensive as fuck. It's not an actual pawn shop.
But the trophy's a piece of crap, isn't it? I mean, the World Cup trophy. You ever look at that thing?
I don't remember it. That'll tell you how good or bad it is. I mean, like
I would rather have the NWA wrestling, tag team intercontinental belt.
Belts are great.
It is an item of more distinction than the World Cup trophy. Anyway, we get Messi here. We got into that a little bit. All right, so we're down to the hockey game. And what do you think, Lubie? You are not optimistic. I am not optimistic.
I think it's done.
It's not impossible to conceive of. I don't know what needs to happen tonight. Is it possible? I can't imagine the Golden Knights. They seem like a pretty loose bunch, as all hockey teams do. I don't see them, tightening up to the point of choking in this game. They did lose Game 5 to the Dallas Stars in their series, and they have that, as we say, resiliency that you look for in championship teams, which you especially needed in hockey, where you could be the better team and still lose the game.
Yes,
I mean it can happen in any sport, really, but more so in hockey than any other game, where a couple of fluke goals. Imagine the Panthers got their rally started in Game 4 and nearly pulled it out based on that was one of the worst goals I've ever seen scored.
I didn't know you could do that. I didn't know you could hit it off of.
We should have a rule: if it bounces off two defenders, the puck's dead, man. Let's have a face-off in your end.
Like he shot it by the blue line and it went off it, and he shot it the wrong direction. He shot it nowhere near.
There wasn't even any attempt to make a shot there, I don't think.
He was just throwing it into the
by
corner.
Montour, yeah.
Panthers fakakta offensive system.
Let's get some new guys on the ice.
So he was dumping it into the corner, and it just so happened to hit the guy's skate and then hit another guy's skate and redirect it right toward the goal.
In the one spot that the guy was figuring, there's no way a puck is coming in at this angle. On the other side of the goal there. But that can happen. And, all of a sudden the Panthers were dead. Completely. It was Niedermeyer dead, Wormer dead, Panthers dead. And you were just waiting for the final, sword of Damocles to drop on that dotted perforated line that was on the Panthers team's neck. That it was over, that, Vegas was going to score another goal. It looked like it was, in the cards. And that was going to be it. And all of a sudden, it's 3-1. And now you're thinking, well, there's a possibility here, right? You mean we're in there with a chance? So tonight, obviously concern would be Tkachuk, you would have to think, was going to be instrumental if the Panthers were going to have any success tonight, that he would be the guy. Although, and this is great because this is under the Barry America theory. This gentleman here, we've spoken of him before because he's handicapping hockey. Michael Leboeuf.
Your favorite.
Michael Leboeuf has a little bit of a French name there. Action Network Sports. ActionNetwork.com. He says that you should go ahead and take plus 550 tonight, Lubie. We'll see how this works out. Are you inclined to do this? On Anton Lundell, who figures to get more minutes tonight if Tkachuk is out, to score a goal in the game. Are you seeing that being worth? If you bet $100 on that, you get back $550. Lubie, is that easy money or what? That Anton Lundell is going to score a goal tonight. He also has Michael Amadio of the Golden Knights at plus 450 as being a good play, and this guy Alex Pietrangelo of the Golden Knights, who's been a factor in the series, but I don't remember him scoring any goals. Has he scored anything, Pietrangelo?
He's the one that isn't he the one that got the stupid or that should have got the penalty at the end and didn't? Or
he's yet to register a point. Yeah, and he got that dumb penalty with the 17 seconds to go.
Yeah, he's the one that got the stupid ass penalty with 17 seconds.
He gets 7-1 if he scores a goal tonight. What do you think? Does he get an empty netter at the end there? Imagine this is what your wherewithal is depending on. Your relative financial health. You're either going to be a loser, as Chris Christie pointed out about Donald Trump several times, or you're going to hit a bet based on possibly, like 12 seconds to go, an empty netter going in by Pietrangelo. And you're thinking, I was right all along.
That makes you right.
All right, what do we need tonight, though, to win this thing, Lubie? What do you think? The same effort that they had in games 3 and 4, does it get it done? I'm not sure.
You need Bob to stand on his head. And that's where they are at this point. Bob plays extremely well. They have a chance. And when he plays well, and it's not his fault, but he gives up a couple of goals, which, again, will happen if you're getting annihilated, they're in trouble. Their defense has been horrendous. Their offense has really struggled to get opportunities at the net. And they are really bad on the power play, both sides. They almost allow a goal every time that they're on the defensive side of the power play. And they don't have it. They're bad for 3 straight postseasons now. Their power play sucks. They're actually worse on the power play.
Still 0 on the power play, correct?
I don't get it. How are you that bad on the power play?
They don't even put that much pressure on during their power plays.
No,
I don't remember too many that you said, oh, my God, they're going to score.
No, they don't get shots on goal. They go entire back. Like Kenny Albert will be like, well, the Panthers haven't had a shot on this power play. It's like, dude, you have an extra person. How do you not at least get a shot on net?
And this started with a shorthanded goal the whole series by the Panthers. It looked really good. 3-1, equally insurmountable now as it is in the NBA. Being down 3-1 in the finals are now both at 36-1 after last night. The team that's down 3-1 is 1 for 37 in both leagues in coming back from a 3-1 deficit. Of course, the only team to do it in the NBA, the Cleveland Cavaliers, that year that they knocked off Durant and Steph and company there with the Golden State Warriors.
Green was the heartbeat of that team. He was the best all-around player on that team, and he missed a game, and that redefined this. It was 3-1. The Warriors were dominating.
Yeah,
he missed that next game, and that opened up. And again, he was back after that, but that changed the entire face of the series.
Do we know who did it in hockey? I should probably know that after quoting this number for the last 7 days here on the show. I don't know who did it in hockey. Came back from a 3-1 deficit in the Stanley Cup Finals to win the championship. Can the Panthers be that team? It is not inconceivable, Lubie. If they can get that same, I mean, did they do enough to convince you in those 2 games at home that they maybe have some of that mojo back that they had in shocking the world, coming back from 3-1 down in the series against Boston and then dominating, 2, as you said, very good teams, teams that everybody thought were capable of winning the championship, far more so than anybody would have considered about the Florida Panthers.
Oh my God. It's the Maple Leafs in 1942.
That's what I was thinking. Like, I was going to say Maple Leafs.
Pre-modern.
I was going to say like 57 or something like that. Toe Blake was just an embryo, not even a gleam in his father's eye at that time.
So no, it's never happened in the modern era. Like at least the Cavs thing was in the last decade.
Why is it so impossible, though, Lubie? I mean, it's not inconceivable. I keep coming back to what anybody should be thinking in those circumstances, which as cliched as it gets. Let's win this one tonight. Then all of a sudden we're going back home, and then as happened, unfortunately, in reverse, I guess, where the Heat won that 7th game, but. Boston had every opportunity to come back from 3-0 down in that series in the NBA. Not inconceivable. I'm not confident about this one at all. We were, I thought Denver would win a tight ball game last night. I didn't know that would be the way it was contested. I thought maybe something a little bit higher in the score.
Yeah, both teams will go off. Both teams shot 3-pointers horrendous in that series, so you figured they'd have a breakout party, and it was actually the opposite. They were worse somehow. From 3-point line.
Oh, that was sad, man. That's a big Phil Mushnick thing. I mean, he rails away on shooting percentages in the NBA, and is this really basketball that is entertaining? Well, when guys are just lobbing bricks up there all night long, it was actually stunning that they could miss that many shots.
Well, the positive is the Heat shot 20-something.
They were 9 for 35 from 3-point range.
35.
Yeah, 9 for 35.
See, at least the Nuggets realized, we're horrible. Let's not shoot so many fucking threes. They stayed away from the 3-point line a lot. The Heat live and die with that goddamn 3 ball, even when they're fucking off. Like, I don't understand.
5 for 28 for the Nuggets. They kept chucking them up there, and they kept missing at the very end in the 4th quarter, right? They had one from Jamal Murray. That was crucial. They had one from Michael Porter, who was a bricklayer the rest of the series. In fact, that guy had to really be – do you think if you ever saw like a slump in a guy's head, didn't it seem like you could almost, see a little balloon coming out of his head there, like it was a cartoon saying, "Don't miss it, Michael."
Well, I give him
kept
credit.
chucking him. Yeah, I mean, he did throw him up there, and he had to because it was part of what they were giving him offensively.
He took it inside, and at 6'10", when he's being defended by like a fucking 6'1" guy,
he was a force inside.
He did what he wanted, and then late in the game, when he couldn't hit the side of a fucking barn, magically, that's when he hits a freaking 3, and it's like, of course he hits it now.
Well, is John Denver still alive, man? I mean, I thought it was a little slim pickings. You had Peyton Manning out there. You had Sean Payton. I was looking for our guy Mike Westhoff, who's now going to be special teams coach with Sean Payton. reunited again with the Denver Broncos. And of course, he had joined Sean, as Sean Payton said, hey, we have to get this guy to help us on special teams when he came out of retirement to work with the New Orleans Saints and won a Super Bowl. So he's calling him back. I was thinking maybe we'd see Westy courtside there. You had Russell Wilson and his lovely wife, who, what is her name? Like Chow or something? What is her? Sierra. Yeah. Very attractive and striking woman. Who else was there, though? I mean, as a Denver celebrity, did they have anything? Not much, huh?
No.
Who else would qualify?
I mean, there was the.
They couldn't dig up like Sonny Liston. He was from Denver, Colorado. At least that's how they announced him.
It's Denver. They're not known for celebrities.
No celebrities there? No, like, Olympic skiers where Jean-Claude Killy.
I mean, it's not ski season.
He live in Aspen? No? Is that far enough away?
In Colorado's full of celebrities, but I don't know if they go to Denver.
Yeah. Fans were crazed. I mean, you would expect no less. They certainly, were energetic at the Kaseya Center. Kaseya Center?
Kaseya.
That Conor McGregor story, you know who's rejoicing in that one? I became the biggest Conor McGregor fan. I think it's going to be probably this week's big board.
Yeah, Ken was giddy. Professor or whatever. The professor.
The only other guy to land a blow on Bernie was our own beloved professor.
Saw him. He punched the shit out of him. He was so pissed. He had a bet on the Final Four, and we were at some beer thing, and Bernie was there for some reason, even though it was college hoops. And
just trying to pick up a nickel or something for going to a promotion and wearing a heavy suit. Yeah.
No, we weren't. We weren't getting paid. We went to.
No, not you. I mean Bernie.
Yeah. We went to like a beer fest.
And there's a real person in there.
It was the Kentucky year with Anthony Davis, and they were undefeated. And we had been on them all year, and they were in the championship game. It was either championship or Final Four. And Bernie kept and Ken. We were watching the game like no one gave a shit. It's South Florida. We were intently watching it, and Bernie kept bothering the professor and Ken to get the fuck out of here.
I mean, he had to wave him out of his face.
A lot of money on that game, and the game had been close.
With a known and stated hatred for mascots.
He was like, "Get the fuck out of here!" He kept warning him. And the guy kept doing the goofy mascot thing, and he didn't get it. He's like, "No, this isn't a bit."
No, get out of here. He hates you. Yeah, I think he, has some phobia about mascots. And what is fear of mascots?
Yeah, I don't know, but he hates mascots. And he hates Bernie. Bernie's like the pinnacle. Like, no one knows what is Bernie. I don't even know what Bernie.
I wouldn't be surprised if we found out that the professor was an investor in that pain spray medication that Conor McGregor was promoting. Well, who on earth? I mean, how uncharacteristic, how incongruous is that with Heat culture? That they had their own mascot knocked out, not the Denver mascot. Their own mascot knocked out by a guy that nobody really cares for anyway. Yeah, Conor McGregor. I mean, it doesn't seem to be he was at one time very popular, and now most people see him as just kind of, some kind of a schmank. No, Conor McGregor.
Well, because he sucked. He got all that attention, but he actually never won. He just talked a lot of.
Towards the end, he was losing all the time.
Lost every match. Whenever they any other matches that mattered, he always lost. Like it was the same thing with our Mr. Trump.
Did he take the act too far, too? I mean, when he threw that metal thing through the window of the bus and actually injured a guy, right? You want to pop up a press conference, fairly typical, but going to the extreme, actually hurting people, that you work with. Absolutely crazy. All right, we're going to come back with more in a moment here. We'll come back and wrap things up. Been a lot of fun today. Phil Schoen, brilliant on Messi. And, it led to our usual trashing of the sport of soccer. Although, Lubie, you are a defender of the game, and I'm glad for that because I don't mean to, have people – you can spare me the hate mail on that. I mean, it's just my way of looking at it because you have to understand that my indoctrination into the game and introduction to the game was that it was a form of punishment. Some guy would graffiti the bathroom, in junior high school, and there we were at Grand Avenue Junior High. And Coach Mousehart would say, okay, until somebody tells us who did this, we're going to play soccer every day in gym class. Like, no.
Oh, really?
Couldn't we just have a workout? Couldn't we do some burpees?
Like, we're going to play.
How about you break out the gymnastic apparatus? Yeah, exactly. I swear to God, Lubie, we love playing any game during that period of time. Anything but that. And you've been schwitzing like a maniac and nobody could score. And the guy would, kick the ball all the way down there. And then the next thing you know, it's stolen. It's going back the other way. And it was futile. And the 45-minute period would end 0-0. And the guy would say, it tells me in condition that little kid, we're going to play again tomorrow. We're going to come back in a moment. Now that. Ponies in Style at Champions, the outstanding simulcasting room at beautiful Hialeah Park. Yes, the grand old lady of thoroughbred racing has never been more vibrant, and you can wager on the races from the top tracks around the country while enjoying a cocktail at the Brass Rail Bar or any of the fine food served throughout the facility. If poker is your game, you're covered in style, and you can play all your favorite Vegas-style games, including blackjack, craps, and roulette, in Hialeah Park's sizzling hot casino. Get a player's card when you walk through the door for all kinds of generous amenities, including our favorite, free play, when you come out to the ultimate casino and entertainment destination, Hialeah Park.
These days, we're all looking for comfort anywhere we can find it. Thank goodness for Landlubbers Raw Bar and Grill in Plantation, because they are making sure you are as comfortable as possible. First of all, they're not only open for delivery and pickup. All you have to do is go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both pickup and free delivery. You're going to have the best wings in the world. You're going to have a great burger. You're going to have their amazing soups. Again, Landlubbers, Raw Bar, and Grill. It's nice and easy. Just go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both your pickup and free delivery. Thank goodness for Landlubbers for making you always feel right at home.
Are you looking to buy your first home? Have you been turned down for a loan? Do you need to refinance or get money out of your home? Call Michael Kodzie, CEO of Choice Mortgage. He's been helping the South Florida community get mortgages for 30 years.
Hi, this is Michael Kodzie, CEO of Choice Mortgage. We have the most competitive fixed rates in the market. Call me 24/7, 561-441-2730. And remember, I don't just work banking hours. To make the right choice for your home, call Choice Mortgage today.
Hear me. I am your new president. From this day on, the official language of San Marcos will be Swedish. Silence. In addition to that, all citizens will be required to change their underwear every half hour. Underwear will be worn on the outside so we can check. Furthermore, all children under 16 years old are now 16 years old.
What's the Spanish word for straitjacket? Power has driven him mad.
Welcome back to the Defo Show.
Working all day in the sun.
Hoping Defo's internet issues get corrected. The last week it's been hit or miss with his internet, but we've had rains and stuff down here. So we will be having a Mike Mayo's Lunchbox at 12 o'clock. Again, once on the road. Today, we're going out to Talia's Tuscan Kitchen, or Tuscan Table, I'm sorry. Talia's Tuscan Table in Boca Raton. So check that out. That's at 12 o'clock. We love our on-the-road editions. We'll be actually on the road the rest of the week. Today, Talia's Tuscan Table. Tomorrow, we will be at Deck and Spice. The Indian restaurant Defo and Mayo I've talked so much about. Thursday we'll be back at the Ocean Manor Bamboo Beach Tiki Bar, and then Friday Gulfstream Park, and Defo is back.
Busy agenda there. Yeah. Some signal issues, as they say. Some transmission difficulties. I think I'm going to blame the cleaning ladies on this one again, Lubie, because and unfortunately it's only the last couple of minutes of the show. Anyway, good to be back with you. Yeah, you're looking forward to eating today? Now, what's the deal? This is Special K's place, right?
Yes.
Talking about basketball, he's going to have the FAU head football coach out there. Willie Taggart, was he the coach last year?
Yes.
But and this gentleman is
this is the guy that he was Urban Meyer's offensive coordinator at Ohio State, got the Houston job, made Houston legit, like literally to the point. Remember, Houston beat FSU in a bowl. Houston every year.
Does he have a name? Do we know this guy's name?
Tom Herman.
Tom Herman. Okay.
He was the coach at Houston, then got the coach at Texas, and was Texas
Yeah.
And
And
he
he's at FAU.
made them interesting, but it just didn't work there. And then he is at FAU, as Willie Taggart was an utter disaster at FAU. This will be Tom Herman's first year as the head football coach at Florida Atlantic.
Okay. Well, I mean, tough act to follow for Willie Taggart. Although you would think, I mean, it's kind of like Messi coming to the MLS that, the guy's a coach at Florida State.
Should have kicked ass.
Should have been, relatively easy to, figure out what it would take to win with the FAU situation. Kiffin figured it out, parlayed that into, well, I mean, Lane Kiffin would get offered big time jobs, even if he had a series of 0-12 seasons. No,
no matter what he does, he failed.
It's just the way it is. Yeah, he's one of those guys. All right. Well, we'll look forward to that. That's going to be later on today there. And so Special K, he's been boasting about this Italian restaurant, right?
He has a piece of it. I don't know.
Italia's Tuscan Grill. Is that the name of the place?
Italia's Tuscan Table. It's a restaurant. They do focus on catering.
Off like Saddle River Drive there or something. And
it's in Boca somewhere. I don't know. It's in Boca.
Okay.
It's pretty close to
We'll
both
find it.
So,
all right. All right, sounds good. All right, also on the agenda here this week is the U.S. Open in golf. Interesting because it'll be the we had these guys come together after the defection in the last major, the PGA, where the Live Tour players were in the tournament, and I guess this was their first meeting after the defection of many of those players, including their champion, Brooks Koepka, a former Florida State guy, which does, again, beg the magic question. How the hell? Florida State had like 3 significant PGA players on their roster, and they didn't win the NCAA championship. How is that possible, huh? What, was Leonard Hamilton coaching a golf team or something? I didn't realize that about Butch Davis until Leslie Visser told us that Butch Davis actually, at one time in his coaching career, coached the golf team at whatever school he was working with the football team, and was also the golf coach, which is an odd kind of quinella to, be able to go out there and enact. Anyway, U.S. Open, and what do you think? Is it the usual suspects, Lubie? In the U.S. Open, a great tournament, usually featuring very, very difficult pin positions and conditions and low scores. I mean, they muck it up pretty good so that the players don't destroy the course, which, I mean, you were seeing last week's tournament was won at 17 under with 2 guys in there. And I think there were like 3 guys drafting in right behind at 16 under. You usually don't see that in the U.S. Open. Usually a very low-scoring affair. Scotty Scheffler, I believe, is the favorite. And not an unreasonable choice. So would you take 7-1 on Scotty Scheffler to win the U.S. Open? Or like the professor, if you're going to bet golf, and he made this work, this theory, which is great because he could be wrong like the next 20 tournaments after he got one.
Yes.
Brooks Koepka to win the PGA.
Yes. I mean, that's what's great about golf is if you can nail one of these long shots,
yes,
buys your next 10 to 15 years of losses.
Interesting. I mean, and it could be some guy that comes out of nowhere, correct? The Ram Man is 10-1. At 11-1 is Brooks Koepka, the PGA champion. I don't know. Hard to go back to back on these sort of things, isn't it? Even though Koepka was very dominant there for a brief period. Could he do it again, Lubie? Now that he'll be gloating? I told you guys are going to be coming to us on your hands and knees, crawling for that blood money. Which there's some fugazi arrangement now being made to kind of compensate the loyal PGA Tour players for the fact that they got shut out on the hundreds of millions that are being doled out to nondescript European schmanks like Weisty, is getting like $50 million a pocket before he even plays a single shot on the Live Tour. Who else? I mean, McIlroy came up short. He made a little move there in the last tournament, but in general, I don't know. Has he been playing well enough to impress you that he's going to win it all in a major? Not sure. They have Cantley at 16-1. Victor Hovland, who was hot, won a tournament a couple of weeks ago, 16-1. Schauffele, 18-1. Spieth, 25-1. Cameron Smith, interesting one, huh? This is a guy you don't often think about, right? The goofy-looking guy with the mullet, Cameron Smith. Another Live Tour defector, 30-1 on this guy. But wasn't he up there in the PGA tournament at least for a while? Cameron Smith, would it be worth a sniff at 30-1? I think that's the direction I'm going to go. And I don't like rooting for this guy for some reason.
Finau.
Tony Finau, yeah.
And I know he's fucked around lately. Like for some reason, I feel
He was hot there. I mean, red hot for a brief period earlier this year.
And then what's the Shoffley? That's another one that has fucked around recently. Like for some reason, I feel like those two have a weird thing.
Will there be an American winner? That's minus 125. You have to lay a price there.
Or just overall, any American? Who's it? Who are the good Americans?
How about you could bet this? The winner in
make a move. It's going to be Dustin Johnson, 100%. The guy flirted with it the last couple times. Now,
you think Dustin Johnson's ready to win this tournament? Okay.
What are his odds? Dustin Johnson.
I didn't see that here. You get a big price on Dustin Johnson because he wasn't even listed among the lower prices, and
he's playing, right?
Go all the way up to 30-1. Yeah, he'll be in there, I'm sure.
He's gonna do something. Watch. This is gonna be.
You want to bet who will be? Will the winner be in the final group in the final round? In other words, will one of the two guys in the final pairing ultimately win the tournament?
Isn't that how it sets up? Where
that's minus 225. Yeah, of course. The guy with the lowest scores are the two guys are going up last
today. But I guess you can still have a shitty last day, is what they're saying. Like
you get a price if you say somebody's going to come from a little bit out of it, like say the guy who's in third, who could be like one shot back.
These are very specific bets.
Plus 175.
What the fuck bets are these?
Wire to wire winner. Will somebody lead all 4 rounds? 12-1. We could have gotten that on Martin Keimer. We probably could have got 100-1. But just in general, on anybody to go wire to wire, 12-1, Lubie.
Outside of Tiger, who the fuck does that? That is so rare.
Not many people. A hole in one in any of the given rounds is plus 350 in the first couple of rounds, plus 750 in the last couple.
These bets are ridiculous.
So many ways to lose your money, and we're talking about golf.
Exactly what it is. That's what they.
How could we ever be out of business when there are so many ways to lose your money? And who better to advise you and guide you in that endeavor than the people that we feature on our show?
Where is it this year?
Where is it, man? It's
got to be out west, right? Because it wasn't in New York last year. Didn't you? You're black.
It's in Los Angeles.
Yeah, I knew it.
Really? Wow, I didn't know that. What course do they play in L.A.? Is it Riviera? Same place they have the L.A. Open, which might be called something else now. Actually, the Saudis might have bought the Riviera Country Club.
Los Angeles Country Club is where it is. Wow, the
LACC, man. I don't know that I've ever seen that layout.
I've never heard of that. I've never heard when they talk about storied golf courses. I've never heard of the LA Country.
Riviera. That's the course they hold the regular tournament on, isn't it? Riviera. I believe I remember going out there a few times to cover golf, and it was always kind of fun. Although now, I mean, very interesting. What kind of feeling do you think there'll be for the U.S. Open now with the Live Tour guys in there and the fact that they made this hideous merger?
Everyone's going to do what you and Mayo did because you guys are phonies. I am holding strong in my hatred.
Oh, you'll never watch golf again?
It's very easy to say that because I haven't watched golf in like a decade because I hated Tiger so much. So I would watch Tiger hoping he would lose. I don't think I've watched really since then. So it's sort of easy for me to say it.
But I mean, can you blame these golfers? They didn't even, they were not in favor of it.
Look, it's not.
They've accepted it, but they're not in favor of it. What are you going to do? Quit the tour?
It's not the golfer's fault. Like, look, they either went and that's on them to their cross.
The Shambo, you can, hope that he shanks every shot.
And look, the Tigers and the McIlroys who held strong have actually gotten fucked in the deal. So to blame them is sort of sucky. I don't know. The whole thing's icky to me right now. Like it really is. I'm sure eventually I won't give a shit.
The United States Championship, though, Lubie.
I know.
Red-blooded American, emotions attached to this thing. It's everything that's good about this country. It's the game of golf. It's a righteous game.
It's everything.
Where it's all about respect and doing things the right way.
You sound like Segredo when Alabama and LSU are playing. And it's the most
Alabama Auburn, right? What is that? The Iron Bowl?
It's like literally two programs that clearly don't give a shit.
Yes.
Never give a shit.
Most crooked organizations in all of sport.
Never been about the kids ever, and all they're talking about is the passion tree.
They make Jose Suleiman and the World Boxing Council look like they're keeping kosher. Yeah, exactly.
Alabama. Dabo and Nick have been the biggest hypocrites about. I'm here to grow young men. Don't ever pay them. Fuck them. Like the two of them are like the kings of that.
Yes.
That's like what you just said makes me think of Alabama Clemson when they're like, oh, Trevor Lawrence, what a good young man.
Well, they're going to grow the game. I mean, isn't that the purpose?
I don't know. Whatever.
Grow the game, which is always a nice way of saying, hey, listen, man, we're a bunch of, hypocritical schmanks. Anyway, that's coming up. I'll be interested in it, Lubie. You know what? I don't think I can bring myself to boycott that. I have a better chance of not gambling for the next 6 months Slim and the 0.0. All right, hockey tonight. We'll enjoy that. We'll see you later on. Head coach at FAU. Football going to be with us, and Mike Mayo's lunchbox. I'm curious to see what Mayo thinks about this place too, because you know how he can be.
The menu
Yeah.
is extensive as hell. Like the menu is like it like combines multiple kinds of Italian cuisine, which is my dream. It's like the American kind of Italian. It's straight out of Tuscany Italian. Like it's all over the place. Like I'm super excited.
Okay, cool. That's 12 o'clock today on South Florida Live, and also on the Let's Eat South Florida Facebook page, where it garners all kinds of interest. Mike Mayo and the Mike Mayo Lunchbox. That's 12 o'clock today. We'll see you there, and I'll be back again tomorrow here on the Defo Show. Thanks, everybody. Thanks to Phil Schoen. I thought he was brilliant on the whole Messi thing, and just, I mean, it literally is like Shakespearean, the way he talks about the game of soccer. It's incredible. So we thank him for joining us early this morning as well. For Mike Lubie Lubitz, I'm Jeff DeForest. We'll see you next time as we leave you now that.
The time.
It's 9:03.
Let's go to eat a damn snack.
Look what they done to my